You see, archaeology is changing the picture. This is the nature of archaeology. We can't help that. There's a source here. Oh, I want to find it. I'm going to have to shut the camera off to find this source. Boy, there's lots of sources there. Okay, here we go. I think this is it. Oh, okay. Well, this is on page 22 of Sorensen. The particular details of working the sheet of gold, as well as in production of true metal wire drawn through a narrow orifice drilled in hard stone. A high degree of sophistication of the metal craftsmanship is shown. True drawn wire has not been convincingly demonstrated anywhere in America before, but now it has. You see, they find more and more and more. Mircea Eliade in The Forge and the Crucible, The Origins and Structure of Alchemy, say that metallurgy as such in Central and South America is probably Asiatic in origin. Most recent researchers tend to relate it to the South Chinese culture of the Zhou period. That's interesting. Hope I don't lose any of these papers in the wind. I'm going to be mad. Oh, this is interesting. Roberto Escalante. And this is a Spanish source, so I'm not going to pronounce it. This is on page 23 of Sorensen. Using a dozen reconstructions of proto-languages from the literature, he identifies lexical items shared under 10 lexical domains. Under economy, he finds the following sharings: the Proto-Maya and Otomanguan proto-languages, metal. In the Proto-Maya, Proto-Huave, and Otomanguan proto-languages, metal is called Hirohacha. He's finding the linguistic, they have linguistic words for metal. Even though we can't find the metal, we know they had it because they're talking about it in their literatures. Sheets of gold were formed using stone hammers. In Oaxaca, recently the Mixtecs have sold to some European antiquaries very thin sheets of gold, evidently worked by hammering by their ancestors, that was able to be preserved and on which were engraved ancient hieroglyphs. This is on page 24 of Sorensen. Cold hammering and annealing techniques are described. Talks about more of the datings. Oh, now here's some. Oh, he's talking about the Asiatic influences. This is on page 26 of Sorensen. The Asiatic influences of of metalworking. Metalworking knowledge was transmitted across the Pacific to both Middle and North Andean areas. He discusses the spread of metallurgy from Southeast Asia all the way over here into America. He says, investigating the caves. In pre-Columbian mines, there were a large number of stone implements inside and outside them. Mines occur in both non-metalliferous and copper and mercury-bearing materials. The Aztecs... Morning. There goes a neighbor on a bicycle. The Aztecs possessed certain implements such as knives and daggers made of iron, but only the most elite possessed these. Iron was prized higher than gold. That's interesting. Page 38, their iron was of meteoric origin like the Maya and Inca, of which weapons have been preserved in collections. I think this is the section I want. Page 27 on Sorensen. It says, not all facets of Andean and Central American metallurgies were developed in Mexico. However, despite the availability there are of ores and metals required to produce their technologies. In West Mexico, metal came to be used principally for objects demarcating sacred and elite domains of culture. They employed copper, silver, and gold, and binary alloys of copper-silver, copper arsenic, and copper tin, among others. Practical tools crafted comprised only a small portion of the total. They weren't using tools. They were more interested in the decorating effects of gold. See, the Mesoamericans had a completely different context and thinking about gold than did the Europeans, or metals in general. In the Andean area, 2 bronzes were used, copper tin and copper arsenic, for both tools and objects for status display. The earliest metals in the Andean area were copper and gold, evident from about 1500 to 200 BC. See, this is the archaeological evidence. They have the lost wax method. I wanted to show you this one source. I can't find it right now. I want to move on to a little more. Oh, here we go. Well, page 28 of Sorensen. Boy, I hope this wind isn't wiping this out. I'm going to be very mad if it is. Boy, the wind came kicking up fast today. A little before 3000 BC, influence from Indonesia is manifest in Ecuador and western Mexico, including cultural traits originating in Bronze Age Sumeria. Around 500 BC, intense new influences, including migrations, reached Mesoamerica, yielding the late pre-classic. Ecuador and Peru, full metallurgy was received, perhaps from the Phoenicians and the Greeks. That's not the source I wanted to find. Oh, here it is. I think it is. Page 29 of Sorensen. He says a technical analysis says relatively pure iron which has been forged or hot worked in some way. The fine grain which is shown in the structure indicates that it has been worked. They're finding more stuff in Mesoamerica. With this source here, he says the conquering Spaniards found non-trivial amounts of gold. Yeah, non-trivial amounts, to be sure. Tons of it on this part of the Gulf Coast, and reported it worked by natives. Yet no metal artifacts have ever been recovered from archaeological sites. That's interesting. It's not found, but we know that it's there. And he says it was widely worked. The Sumerian, Hittite, Assyrian, and Hebrew names for iron meant something like fire or metal from heaven. The Hebrew word is parzil. Oh, here we go. Well, page 31 of Sorensen. He says, our picture of the earliest metallurgy in the Andes is changing as the data... Boy, I'm on this stupid road. Can't find a good place to be right now. Our picture of the earliest metallurgy in the Andes is changing as the data trickles in, but we are far from any clear interpretation of the data. Holy cow, that's in 1980. You see, archaeology doesn't deal in proof. We're still trying to figure out how to interpret this stuff. We have it, but what does it prove? We don't know yet. It would be foolish to attempt any generalization or careful evaluations of these beginnings in Andean metallurgy when we see that within the last 13 years, bits and pieces of information have slowly collected to alter our previous notions of the nature of early horizon metallurgy. And then page 32, another source. Iron, the most remarkable objects have been discovered in Mexico of iron. There's nothing to indicate that it is post-Columbian origin. In other words, it's old. They use gold mixed with mercury, coated on the clay. The mercury is being volatilized when fired. The process is known in the old world. Now, I think this is the source. Oh, here we go. According to Dr. Donald Lathrap of the University of Illinois, new finds date civilization in the Cauca Valley of Ecuador to be 1500 to 600 BC.